Hi, everyone. I'm going to actually, well, first of all, thank you to the Canadian Securities Exchange for putting this on. It's been amazing, I think, for everyone here. And Accelerate Okanagan, what can I say? I've sat on the board for a number of years, and it's a great entity that is really working hard to help create that ecosystem for entrepreneurs where they're supported, where they have opportunities, where they can learn and grow and really launch and grow their business here in the Okanagan. So they do fantastic work in that area. And if you're not a member, please see someone on the team about becoming a member of Accelerate Okanagan and supporting the ecosystem here today. So I'm Nicole Rustad, and I'm the Chief Impact Officer of Carbon Count Techs. I will not get into that because I'm doing a little bit of a talk about carbon counts at the very end of the day. So I'd like to call up Alisha McFetridge, Justin Goodhew, and Angela Nagy, who are on our panel. And I cannot tell you how thrilled I am that I'm moderating this panel. I said yes to being on the panel, or to moderating it. And then I hadn't even really looked at who was on the panel and discovered that I have known these three amazing humans, each of them individually, for Angela for over 20 years, Alisha for 15 years, and Justin, I think we figured maybe 10 years.
Sounds about right.
And I can tell you, you cannot meet more incredible purpose-driven entrepreneurs than these three on the stage today, so I'm really excited to be moderating. We're going to start actually with each of you just doing a 2-minute pitch about who you are, and we're going to talk about the amazing purpose-first businesses that you're growing and your perspective on that. And let's kick it off with Alisha.
Yes, I've known Nicole since we both worked at Club Penguin. Way back in the day, it was 2010, and I think we first met when I joined the social impact initiatives. There was some volunteering that was done with Club Penguin, and that was really, and then from then on, that was really my journey. And so a lot of what I'm doing today, it's actually thanks to Nicole. So I'm actually super excited to be here. But I today am the co-founder and CEO of RainStick. A lot of people don't realize, but we live in a desert. This is Canada's only desert region. A lot of Canadians don't recognize that. But despite that, we use a lot of water. So on average, we use about 300 liters of direct water per person per day. That's about 700 water bottles worth of water. And 50% of that water that we use stems from the bathroom. So our vision and our mission at RainStick is to build water technology that allows someone to thrive using only 50 liters of water per person per day. So we have a lot of work today to do, but we're starting with a technology that makes a very large difference, and that is RainStick Shower, which we've developed, which is North America's first circular shower that saves up to 80% water, up to 80% energy, while providing double the flow rate. So we have big plans in the future, and we're super excited about being here. We're Indigenous, we're women-led. 50% of our team are women, which is unheard of within technology, but is also really unheard of within the clean tech space. And then 50% of our team also identifies as minorities. So we're very proud. We're in upstairs with Accelerate Okanagan.
Thank you, Alisha. Angela.
Good afternoon. Angela Nagy, founder and CEO of GreenStep Solutions. And I started GreenStep 15 years ago with a purpose to save the world through business by helping small and medium-sized enterprises primarily, but we're working with a lot of larger organizations now to measure and reduce their environmental impacts and improve their overall sustainability performance. We're currently working across Canada, a few international clients as we work on our international expansion, and we are doing a range of things, including consulting to provide carbon footprint measurement, life cycle analysis, energy assessments, waste audits, water audits, sustainability strategy development, and then we've also designed some software tools that allow us to productize our services in a way that is now allowing us to scale in Canada and beyond our borders within the tourism sector. A lot of the work that we're doing on the software tools is within the tourism sector, helping tourism destinations and businesses to measure and improve their sustainability performance, and outside of the tourism sector with our carbon software.
And Justin.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so Trellis, I am the co-founder and CEO of Trellis.org. We help charities raise money, and we do that through software as a solution, and it is auction platform. So if you've ever been to a gala, charity gala before, you've probably done a paper auction or paper tickets, things like that. We digitize all that. And what got me started was I started asking charities kind of, what their big problems were. I went to a bunch of conferences across Canada, and they told me it's all about revenue generation. And how do we get that revenue generation? So we're focused on digital products using software to get more revenue generated into these charities' bank accounts. Because unfortunately, we expect charities to use the most minimal amount of their dollar possible on their staff and on their operations, which leads to not much impact, leads to a lot of very basic outputs. So I saw that system, and I just got really frustrated with it, and I wanted to fix it. So 4 years ago, with the help of a lot of people in this room, got started and really tried to dig in on that problem. And I think the start is how do we generate just more unrestricted funds, is what you call it, for charities, so that they can then pay their teams properly, they can get better staff, and they can actually solve the systemic issues within the charity space. And do that in a way that hopefully we can actually solve some of the systemic issues within our society. So that's what Trellis does.
So thank you, three. As you can tell, our startup scene here is really inspiring with so many socially conscious enterprises that are doing some unique and innovative things in clean technology, in all the three buckets of ESG. So some warm-up questions, and of course, if anyone in the audience has questions, please do raise your hands and let us know. I'd like to ask, how would you define doing good in the context of your startup? And I'll just start with Angela.
Thanks, Nicole. So we, of course, started the company to do good, but as we're growing and as our carbon footprint grows as a company, one of the things that we are working on measuring this year is, first of all, looking back through all of the reporting that we've done internally. We've been a B Corp since 2015, so we've been doing a lot of impact measurement for quite a long time now, is understanding the cumulative impact that we've had from a carbon perspective on our clients, and then moving forward, really digging into the data to help us understand and then set goals around ensuring that we're creating a net positive carbon impact. So we want to ensure that the fact that I'm jet setting around to speak at events and meet with clients is being more than compensated for in the impact that we're having in helping our clients reduce their carbon footprint. For us, it's really a lot around carbon. We also have some sustainability assessment tools and certification programs that we've developed. We intend to do more of that. So another way of measuring for us is watching the impact that we're having and the score that our clients achieve through those assessments, improving over time. So one of our mandates for this year is to set goals by 2030 for our own net carbon footprint impact and also our sustainability performance impacts.
Wonderful. And I'm going to mix it up. I'm not just going to go left to right here. Justin, how about you?
So I've had the pleasure of working with, we have about 500 charities on our platform, and the one thing I've really taken from the charity space is how to talk about impact, because they're asking you for your money and you get a good feeling back, right? So how do they really depict that good feeling? And it's through not only impact metrics, but also storytelling is kind of the two ways. So you can't just have impact metrics without telling a good story, and you can't just tell a story without having the substance behind it. So when we're talking about Trellis and how we do good, At a high level, our aim, which we are nowhere close to, we started about 4 years ago, and is when we make decisions at the board and executive level, it's the right decision for our purpose and our profit. And I think that is the true mark of doing good at a really high level. We have specific metrics we go for, how much dollars raised, how much more dollars raised than they would have with a different solution or something else, so then they can create more impact. And then we're looking at what they're doing with those dollars as kind of our next step. We've been saying this for a while, though. We're only 4 years in, so we're just still very much at the early stages, just trying to get some more money into the charities' bank accounts, and that's really what our measurement is right now.
Thank you. Alisha.
All right. For us, I mean, we really measure through water saved and energy saved. And so for us, we can actually track down to the liter and the kilowatt hour that is abated. And so, we can look at, as installations are installed, the measurement that we can capture over time, which I think is really important to us. If only 3% of Canada installed a RainStick, to put it into perspective, that would be over 50,000 megatons of carbon that's abated. And so looking at scale, I think is something that's really exciting. And for us, that's, how we're doing good. But I think it also comes down to the input, so where we get where our supply chain is. So we build our product in Canada, and who our employees are. And so inputs, operations, and then the outputs of the technology. But I really like what you had to say, profit and as well as purpose. I think it's super important.
If you figure it out, let me know.
Well, that's a great segue into, I think, which is something that all entrepreneurs, when they're starting out, and even as they're trying to grow their business and scale, is what unique challenges have you encountered when seeking funding for your startup? And I'll start with you, Justin, going the other way.
Okay. So for context, we're kind of, I would say, between the seed stage and Series A stage. We're not ready to scale yet, but we've gotten a lot of angel capital and like some smaller venture fund capital as well. There's so many investors out there, especially in the impact space. I think that one of the biggest problems is deal flow. So if you do have an idea and you can put a good team together, I think that is a big problem. You just need to be very clear. And I think it was Carolyn was talking about hurdles. Find those hurdles, because you like those hurdles. If someone says, what is your impact? Like what, UN Sustainable Development Goals do you use? What ESG do you use? If they're asking those questions, then they care about that. And then, so that's where you need to go, and don't waste your time with the others, because the venture model is already kind of breaking right now, and just in terms of how much scale you really need to get to and how big the markets need to be. And you're looking for venture capital partners that are a lot more patient than your standard. So patient capital is a very common term that I look for. And I only talk to those investors that have that, because if they don't care, then they're not going to invest in Trellis. We just aren't attractive enough, and that's okay. We're not looking for investors like that. We're looking for partners on that purpose and profit. And just a couple, the Rise of Capital on the island would be an interesting one to check out. They invested, they're purpose-driven, active impact investments. Spring has one. Purple has one, which I think we've heard about here. So they are popping up more and more. When I started my company, there was like 1 or 2 in BC. Now there's, I think, like 4 or 5. So it is growing as well.
Alisha, how would you answer that?
Yeah, I think the challenge for us has been, when you're speaking with impact investors, I find the impact model is sometimes really hard to quantify. And so for us, it's like, okay, what kind of impact are you looking for? What sort of, let's talk about that. So that's maybe been some of the realization, was trying to figure out the best way to put that framework. But I think also in our case, I care a lot about the environment. That's my purpose. That's my why. That's why I do what I do. Do I want to make a lot of money? Absolutely. That's definitely part of it. And I think, we've always looked at impact investment being on one side and, VC venture capitalists being on the other side. But what I think we're starting to see is a little bit more of a blend, and people realizing that is possible to have that blend and to make a lot of money, but do it the right way. And I think more consumers care about that. They care about, where your product is made, what type of employment you have, more about the everything from A to Z. And I think it's important in this stage of business to be really cognitive of that. So I think, does that kind of, did I just go on a tangent there?
It was a great tangent.
Okay,
No, it's great.
Okay.
Angela.
Yeah, echoing both of my fellow panelists. I haven't been actively raising for quite a long time, and when I was there, impact investment just wasn't really what it is today. It was, about 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, and there weren't a lot of funds that were really interested in what we were doing. We were probably pretty early stage as well. In more recent years, when I've been kind of toying with the idea of raising again, we've been lucky enough, because we've been profitable for a long time, we can leverage debt, which I've preferred, so that I can maintain my equity in the company. But some of the conversations I've had aren't values aligned. I haven't, again, it's just been dipping my toe in the water, but I think for purpose-driven founders, that values alignment and those principles are really, really important in finding someone who is going to be patient, potentially, but also is going to support some of the kinds of decisions that you're going to make as an entrepreneur. And for me particularly, looking for someone who can really be a partner, who can open doors that I don't have access to, that also has that values alignment. So I think it's a little bit far and few between at this point still, but it's changing.
Wonderful. Alisha, and the rest of the panel, what unique opportunities do entrepreneurs like yourselves face starting a business with a social or environmental mission? Or it could be a challenge as well, opportunity challenge.
Yeah, I think that for being able to tell this story behind your enterprise, your business, has been something that we've really worked on developing. I think that because there is that segregation between impact and also trying to build a 10x company, it's saying what type of investors, what type of company are we going to build? What type of people do we want on the bus that are going, with us? And I think for us, being able to really get behind that and, be proud of the investors that we're bringing on, something that we always ask every new investor that comes in. We've had people that say, "Oh, you're not one of those B Corp businesses, are you?" We're like, "All right, see you later." But on the other side, we always say, an investment in RainStick is an investment in water conservation. And are you aligned with that? Yes? Okay, then you're our type of investor, and we're ready, to go on this journey together and hopefully do really well. So I think for us, it's really been, getting that impact story and the storytelling about, where we are today and where we're looking to go.
Angela, how about you?
It's always been about the business case for what we're doing. Whether I'm speaking to a potential client or a room of industry professionals or a potential investor, telling the story of how doing good in business is also very good for business from a bottom line perspective. And surprisingly, there's still a lot of confusion and misconception out there in the world that all of this ESG stuff is just going to cost us all a lot more, when in fact it's actually a tool that can build business success because there are cost savings through efficiencies to be found. Employees are demanding companies align with their values, and it's an employee's market today. Employees are choosing companies very differently. So as an employee attraction and retention tool, sustainability is really key. So telling this story and sharing some of the stats around that, and of course consumers and investors and corporate customers are also demanding more responsible business in many ways. So I really like to tell the story of how responsible business is really good for the bottom line.
Justin, how about your Trellis and you?
Oh, I have nothing to add. I think it's great. Yeah, that was fantastic. Doing good makes you more money, I think. And that's the great disruptor that can set you apart, especially in saturated markets. So, yeah.
So what strategies did you find effective in attracting impact-focused funding and investors?
What are the strategies? I think, honestly, angel investors is a lot more personal. So you just find the angel investors, the value aligned. Being in this market was where I did a lot of the angel, and there's a lot of people that do really care, which is really nice to see. It was a lot more support than I expected, especially when I talked about the problems in the charitable space that everyone could recognize and agree with and want that, and they get frustrated about it. So just leveraging the emotional side, especially with that. And it's all about, remember, that storytelling and impact. So if you can tell that good story, you have a good story if you're in this space, I think. So you just need to really tell it, and people will come to you, which is great.
Alisha, what about yourself and RainStick?
Yeah, I think quite similar to that is when identifying potential investors and speaking with folks in the angel community, or in the VC community, it's folks who have gone through at some point in their life either water insecurity, energy insecurity, or they've gone through an aha moment where they've realized that they want to do something better. Or they, in our case, is just someone that's had a really shitty experience with showering, to be honest, because double the flow rate of a better shower. And so we go down to Florida, and people say, well, I've always had a low flow shower experience, but water and energy, that's one thing, but the reason I'm going to buy your system is because it's a double the flow rate. And that for me is important. And so I think really it's important in the impact space to find people that you align with. Mm-hmm.
And Angela, I know you mentioned that you hadn't gone into the angel investors realm as of yet, I believe. So what other alternative funding did you go after when you started your business, and since you've been scaling, or what have you done?
Yeah, pretty much every single grant dollar I could get my hands on. So non-dilutive investments in the company. But specifically seeking out those pockets of money that are available for hiring professionals in the clean tech space, funding around the SDGs. There have been a number of federal funding programs there. So whether it's funding specifically to hire team members, funding through IRAP's Clean Tech program and their Youth Green program, we've secured hundreds of thousands of dollars in grant money over the years. And on a similar trajectory, when we're now speaking to lenders, as we're raising some additional funds, telling that story of our impact has been really important. It's something that's of interest and mandated for many of the lenders that we're working with. So I think it's been a big part of how we've been able to raise that non-dilutive financing over the last 15 years.
Wonderful. Alisha or Justin, have you used any alternative funding sources?
Yes. Yes, we have. In fact, that's how we started. So, really for us, after you bootstrap, you realize how expensive it is to really get a business up and running. And so after that, we really started to take advantage of grant opportunities that really allowed us. Investment readiness program was one of them for social purpose organizations. We took advantage of SDTC, IRAP. To date, we've brought in $2.8 million in grant opportunities. So that's been a really big part of, how we've been able to develop the organization. And I think we're really lucky in Canada to be in such an incredible place where the government, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of programs to take advantage of and really help businesses get further.
Wonderful. Justin?
Yeah, I think it's just over about $1 million in IRAP and SHRED, which is scientific research something. Apologies. And there's a tax rebate program there, and then IRP for to help me finance my next round. So it was a program to get you ready for the financing round. So I thought that was really neat. It was kind of the kickstart to my next round. And then there was one more that I've lost, but I'm sure it's not that important.
That's okay. That's wonderful. I'm just checking my time here. I guess one last question for the panel, for all three of you. How can local community investors and government better support startups focused on doing good? Justin, do you want to start?
I really do, yes. There was one point, I was like, there's only one point I want to get across, and I haven't done it yet, and I'm kind of putting a challenge to everyone here, because I know there's investors here, is how do we tie the financial deal terms? How do we tie term sheets to not only the financial terms and the equity or the lending, whatever it is, the term sheet, how does the term sheet have impact metrics on it that you have to hit as well? And how do we incentivize founders to hit more impact metrics right from the start when it's harder because cash is tighter, and it's maybe giving better lending terms, for example. So maybe it's an 8% if you only hit these ESG goals or this much diversity in your company, but it's 7% or 6% in interest if you hit higher ones. So we're actually rewarding. So we're putting our money where our mouth is in terms of that. I'm not an investor. I wish I was, sorry. But investors out there, and I want to try and push that as well when I go for other rounds of funding, is try and get that in there just to make sure everyone's value aligned as well. So I think that's how we can all help, is actually do it. Put the impact terms into the term sheet. Cool.
Angela.
Yeah, just echoing that, we just signed an agreement for a pilot program with Scotiabank. They are looking to support their commercial clients in measuring their carbon footprint, helping as a precursor to helping the bank understand some of the carbon risks of those smaller clients. So my sense is that that is going to be exactly the next step, that understanding carbon risk and identifying those companies who have a lower carbon risk are going to get better terms. I think we're going to see that coming from the financial institutions for sure, and hopefully investors will follow. One of the other things that I think could be very useful, and I think a lot of accelerators and incubator programs are moving this way, but so far they've been fairly heavily focused on technology startups, and I think there's a huge opportunity for other types of companies that are doing really good things in the world that could use the kinds of support that organizations like Accelerate Okanagan and the other accelerators in the province and across Canada could really benefit from on their entrepreneurial journey. There are a lot of people that want to do really good things, and they need the kind of supports that I've benefited from, and I know my fellow panelists have benefited from with incubators.
Thank you, Angela. And Alisha.
Yeah, so I think I echo what you both say. I think that that's great. But I would also add there's a lot more green organizations out there. And so I think it can be hard to determine, greenwashing versus impact. And so, I'd love to see more mechanisms out there to be able to really identify the company, through the GHG emissions, through, the advancement. And I think just in general, one of our challenges when we first started was that we were building a product. There was a lot of product development. There's a lot of product refinement. We hadn't been in business for 2 years. And so we found it really hard to be able to get approved for different grants because you had to be incorporated. There was a lot of red tape initially. So I think, now we've been able to kind of get through those hurdles, but at the beginning it was really, really, really hard. And so I think, that's maybe where angels that are working towards GHG reductions, but also, climate and social ESG initiatives can really play a part. And, being willing to invest in companies earlier, at the earliest of stages, I think really helps. And I think a large part of that is really believing in the teams that are behind it. So definitely, keep on going with investing for those that are there. And in this area, I think it's really important.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience before we wrap this panel? I see none. So thank you to the three of you. It's been an honor and a privilege to get to moderate this panel with these three exceptional entrepreneurs making such an incredible difference with their companies. Thank you.